Most people think racketeering is just something mobsters do in the movies, but that's a mistake. The truth is, this law has been used against Wall Street billionaires, corrupt politicians, and even international sports organizations. And chances are, you've believed the myth that it only applies to the mafia. Racketeering is a broad term that covers many types of organized crime, including murder, prostitution, drug and human trafficking, bribery, kidnapping, money laundering, and embezzlement. To fight such operations, Congress passed the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act in 1970, specifically designed to dismantle organized crime groups. RICO allows prosecutors to go after leaders of criminal enterprises even if they never directly carried out the crimes themselves. While many well-known mob bosses were taken down through RICO, its reach goes much further. Over the years, it's been used against corrupt politicians, law enforcement officials, corporate fraudsters, and even terrorist groups. Civil lawsuits can also be filed under RICO in certain cases. Here are 5 major RICO cases in U.S. history. 1. Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, 1979. Founded in 1948, the Hells Angels became infamous as an outlaw biker gang. While individual members were convicted of drug dealing and violent crimes, federal authorities aimed to prove that the club itself was a racketeering enterprise. However, juries weren't persuaded, and 2 separate trials collapsed into mistrials when jurors couldn't agree on a verdict. 2. Mafia Commission Trial, 1985. During the 1980s, New York City's organized crime was dominated by the 5 families. The Mafia Commission Trial sought to cripple the mob by convicting the bosses of all 5 crime families, collectively known as the Commission. Led by federal prosecutor Rudolph Giuliani, the case presented evidence from years of FBI surveillance, including extensive wiretap recordings of mafia meetings. The outcome was historic. 8 mob leaders were found guilty of racketeering, with 7 receiving 100-year prison sentences, striking a massive blow against the mafia's power structure. 2. Michael Milken, 1990. Michael Milken, once one of Wall Street's most powerful financiers, built his fortune on high-yield junk bonds worth over $1 billion by the late 1980s. But his empire crumbled when prosecutors accused him of manipulating the bond market for personal profit. Relying on testimony from Ivan Boesky, a convicted insider trader, the government charged Milken in 1989 with 98 counts, including racketeering, securities fraud, and mail fraud. A conviction could have meant 20 years in prison and the dismantling of his firm Drexel Burnham Lambert. Instead, Milken struck a plea deal, admitting to 6 lesser charges, paying $600 million in penalties, and receiving a 10-year sentence, of which he served only 2. 4. John Gotti, 1992. Gambino crime boss John Gotti was notorious in the 1980s for repeatedly dodging RICO charges, earning him the nickname the Teflon Don. Investigators later discovered that Gotti had bribed jurors and intimidated witnesses to escape conviction. That changed in 1992. Thanks to testimony from his underboss, Salvatore Sammy the Bull Gravano, Gotti was finally convicted of racketeering, the 1985 murder of Gambino leader Paul Castellano, and a dozen other crimes. He was sentenced to life in prison, where he remained until his death in 2002. 5. FIFA Corruption Scandal, 2015. RICO isn't limited to U.S. street gangs or mob families. It's even been used against international sports organizations. In 2015, at a FIFA conference in Zurich, U.S. authorities arrested 9 senior soccer officials and charged them with a $150 million bribery and kickback scheme. Over time, prosecutors widened their case, exposing decades of corruption tied to media and marketing rights for major tournaments like the World Cup.
The investigation produced 31 guilty pleas and multiple convictions, cementing FIFA's scandal as one of the most significant applications of RICO outside traditional organized crime.